Well, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for our webinar today. Dear Leadership, here's why your gift planning program is important. My name is Nathan Stelter, president here at the Stelter Company, and very excited to be here today to introduce our presenter. But before I do that, I did want to say just a couple words about the webinar series. As an expert advocate for asset-based giving, Stelter's always committed to providing innovative solutions and education for industry. We pride ourselves on really being a bridge builder for the nonprofit community, and as such, are happy to host this complimentary webinar today, as well as a whole slate of webinars throughout the entire year, not only connecting you to experts from across the country, but hopefully assisting you in maximizing your revenue across your development portfolios. So today's webinar is actually our sixth of this year, of the 2022 curriculum. Still left to present this year is Stacy Solman, Chief Legal Officer and Vice President for Personalized Philanthropy at the American Committee for the Weizmann Institute of Science. She'll be talking about strategies to make plan giving data work for you. We also have added another presentation in October here. Myself and my partner Brantley Boyette from Giving Docs will be talking about sharing a new talk we've given around identifying hand raisers and how do you put a value on those folks that have shown interest and how do we make that case. So excited for the rest of the docket. Very excited for today and to introduce you to our presenter Elizabeth Ayers. Presentation. I'll walk you through her bio very quickly, but very excited about this topic because a lot of the work we do, Elizabeth and I and others on the National Board for Charitable Gift Planning, is really driven by this national standards for gift planning success. And we know this is a topic on how do we continue to articulate and get support from the top and to communicate with our leadership. So super excited about this talk. But Elizabeth is actually the Executive Director of Gift Planning at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. Prior to joining UNC back in 2008, she worked at The Ohio State University, where she served as Director of Plan Giving for the Medical Center and Associate Director of Plan Giving for the university. Former member of the Board of National Association of Charitable Planners and served NCPP at the time of the 2017 conference chair. Also member of NAGC CGP Leadership Institute and North Carolina Plan Giving Council, where she served on its board from 2013 to 2016. Elizabeth presents on various charitable topics at local and national conferences across the country and has practiced law in the areas of estate and charitable planning and civil litigation. She holds a JD from Capital University, Master of Music from Ohio University, and a Bachelor of Music from Wittenberg. So very excited to hand over the reins for the next 45 minutes to an hour to Elizabeth. It's all yours.
Thank you, Nathan. I am thrilled to be here and I so appreciate the invitation. This topic is near and dear to my heart. And so I'm very delighted to share what I have experienced with all of you. I'm basing today's on the Gift Planning Standard number 2, and these are the National Association of Gift Planning Standards that came out about a year to a year and a half ago. And number 2 is extremely important because it's the nonprofit has a strong internal business case for gift planning embraced by the management and the board. And this is something that, as I've talked with colleagues all across the country, we are constantly striving to prove our value, prove our case even more, and looking for ways to help each other to do this. And so I have 3 goals for today, and the session is kind of divided into 3 sections. One is just to offer a few examples of how I resolved internal challenges while trying to grow the gift planning program. I started with a very small program, and it has grown significantly as far as dollars raised and in size in a decade. So I'm happy to share some of that with you. I want to provide some ideas for collaboration with internal partners because I don't think you can be successful unless you have a really healthy relationship with your major gift officers. And third is I'm going to show you data reports developed by me and my team to prove the value and the breadth of the gift planning program. Oh, I got to play with my mouse a little bit. Okay, whoops. Let's go back to the one I want. I realize that I come from a large gift planning program with a team of 6, and that's a pretty nice size, 3 fundraisers, 3 support team. We have right now at Carolina about 153 major gift officers. So 3 gift planning officers service 150 people. But however, many universities have much larger programs, but I know there are also many of you in tiny shops. And when I started in 2011, when I took over the reins, I had 2 other team members. That was it. So I really hope and think no matter what the size of your institution is or the size of your program, I hope you can find a few relevancies today that will help you. So we all have challenges, and we all have to figure out how to work through these. Everybody, I don't know anybody who doesn't have a challenge with time. It seems like we're constantly asked to do more with our dollars, more with our resources, with less staff. And that is a continuum. Culture, collaboration. When I came here to Carolina, there really wasn't a strong culture of collaboration. Everybody got along, but the idea of a major gift officer and a gift planning officer strategizing and traveling together to see donors was not very evident. Team, do you have the right people on the bus? Because if you don't, it can be incredibly detrimental. And I had to go through a few false starts until I had the team that I needed and wanted in place. Mega campaigns, holy cow. When we are in a mega campaign right now. Carolina's in a $4.25 billion campaign. That ended up being a positive and a negative for the gift planning office, which you'll see as we talk. Communication from leadership. How are you dealing with that? Do you sometimes scratch your head and wonder what really are priorities? What's going on? One of my favorites that people who know me have heard me complain about, metrics. I really do not like the idea of major gift officers and plan giving officers having the same metrics. I don't believe it makes sense. And then finally, data. Do you have the database that can pull the reports that you need? Are there ways to get it? It took me a long time, and I still do a lot of the reports that you're going to see at the end. We do a lot of them by hand because we just can't figure out another way in our database to get what we want. So with these challenges, so I took over the program in 2011, and we were talking about an upcoming campaign. It was delayed because we had leadership changes, but by 2014, we were in silent phase. And I had to overcome a lot of challenges and somehow get ready for this campaign. And so I asked myself, what do I have control over? What can I get started on? And I'm a former piano teacher. Nathan mentioned I have a bachelor's and a master's in music. And so I'm used to focusing on simple concrete steps to build. For example, you cannot play Chopin unless you know how to play a scale. So I kind of approached this challenge the same way. What did I need to focus on to create momentum toward building a more robust gift planning program that could achieve the results that would be required in the campaign? So I'm going to share 2 examples with you. Number one, I had a lot of challenges on this one. I had a lack of a program budget, I had internal fiefdom issues, and I had a brand new boss to get used to. And so I knew I had to start with my boss. She had come from another major public university with a large gift planning team and a large budget. And she had very strong opinions regarding gift planning metrics. On top of that, with all new leadership, we had all new leadership, new chancellor, new chancellor for development, vice chancellor for development, new senior associate chancellors, total new leadership. And so they had to get to know us, and then they had to gear up quickly for a campaign. And so I needed to advocate for my department needs. And the 3 things on my mind at the time were I needed fundraisers, I needed support staff, because there's a lot that we do in a gift planning program that requires some really good technical back office support. And I needed marketing dollars. But first I needed how to figure out how to communicate with her and where she was coming from. And it can be a little bit of a tug of war at times. But I started with marketing because I discovered that she loved marketing and had used a very good company who shall remain nameless, where she was from formerly. My relationship with the marketing team was a little bit rocky because they didn't think I knew how to write. And I sure as heck knew that they did not know anything about planned giving, gift planning, or anything technical at all. For example, one of my writers I was drafting an IRA charitable rollover postcard, charitable IRA rollover. He took it, put these huge headlines in it, roll over your IRA. And I said, no, 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 that changes the whole meeting. And we were constantly fussing over these kinds of ideas, and it was not going as smoothly as I liked. Thankfully, my boss got it, and she also realized that a lot of people were having trouble with marketing. And so she gave me a huge budget, told me to go out and hire a gift planning marketing firm, which we used during the silent phase to get started on campaign. And I am thrilled that we had them because we had never had a consistent marketing program, a consistent messaging, consistent, whether it was email, postcards, e-blast, whatever, we had never had anything consistently going. And if you don't have that, it's really hard to get leads and really just hard to get the message out and going. So that was very, very helpful. Now, as an aside, one interesting thing that happened was because all of the senior leadership were new, they did what those of us in central development call a secret survey. And here at Carolina, we have about 17 different foundations and affiliated entities. They all have their own tax ID. They all have their own stewardship people. They have their own annual fund people. Thank goodness they don't have their own gift planning people. But they used a lot of central services, all the prospect research, and we had a key annual fund. We had major gift regional major gift fundraisers. We had gift planning. So this secret survey goes out to all of them about how we are helping them or not. And thank goodness, gift planning scored high because at that time I had already been here in charge for 3 years and I'd already been instituting some of my approaches and things that I wanted done. So that helped senior leadership say, okay, they do know what they're doing. My second success story was I looked at my team and I told my boss, we cannot triple what we need to do with deferred giving with this team. We just can't do it. And she agreed. And another thing I discovered is she and I both believed that gift planners should be proactive. We should be out with our major gift officers. We should be out on the road. We should not just be waiting for them to come to us with an issue or a donor, but we should be partnering with them. And so my second success, and this was a pretty easy one, was welcoming a new experienced fundraiser to my team. And from there, we were able to get going. So, I have a team. Now I need to make sure we're going the same way, that we all have the same vision, that we all understand the role that we play, because I had an executive assistant, I had someone who did all the life income, I had someone who did probate administration, and I wanted to make sure that they understood the service aspects and everything that we fundraisers had to do and that we were all working in the same direction. I didn't want to necessarily just say, do this, do that. I don't think that is good for anyone. I wanted them to come to this realization on their own, and I also wanted them to have pride with their role. So, any of you know me know that I created this gift planning wheel for a lot of reasons in about 2015, 2016. And so I took this wheel and set up an all-day retreat with my team. And about a week before, I went to them, each of them individually, and I said, I want you to look at these 9 areas, everything that we do, and I want you to rank them 1 through 9. What is the most important service that we do and why? What is the most important aspect of this program? but do not talk to anyone else on the team. I want this to be your thoughts. I want this to be your ideas, and I want you to feel comfortable sharing them with the team. So they all did that. We met, and lo and behold, I was right. Nobody, I think maybe two of us selected the same things. Everybody was all over the board. And it was kind of cute because, as I suspected, some were advocating for the areas which they had ownership over. So we talked about it, left it up on the wall, and then backed off, and I talked about my vision. What should a robust gift planning program look like by the end of this campaign? What do I see, and what do I hope for? Then we looked at what we had achieved the past year, and we said, where did our business come from? We went around the wheel. How much came from here? How much from there? What was that like? And then we looked at, what are we supposed to do this year? Because by this time we were in silent phase, and our metrics, what was required of us, was going up. By the end of the day, we went back and I asked them, does anybody want to change what they think is most important? And to a T, we were all on the same page. And they did this we just did this by talking through where we had been, where we wanted to go, and what we had to do the next year. So that was a good day for all of us. And so now that I have the team working, I want to make sure that I have that same enthusiasm and success with colleagues. So since the day I arrived at Carolina, and later when I stepped in to lead the program, I worked on finding partnerships with major gift officers, because I believe, as I said earlier, that we needed to be proactive. We needed to be a proactive resource, and we needed to prove our value to the major gift officers. And I do have the data, which you will see, to prove that the bulk of our business comes from the major gift officers. And so I think about those of you who may be the only gift planning person, may have tiny shops, may be wearing several hats. Find whoever your internal partners are that are related to what you do, and just sit down and listen to them, ask them what they need, and then deliver. And the key word that we use all of the time in my office is service. My senior director has a sign above her computer, and it says, "Who may I service today?" And that's how my team thinks, top to bottom. So when I had started, there were two of us that were fundraisers with 80 major gift officers. And so, following along this theme, my goal was for each of us to find 6 to 8 major gift officers who would work with us and with whom we could work regularly and start proving impact, start helping them, because I knew word of mouth would spread and it would grow. I also knew that they would be our best advocates for senior leadership, because they would say, "Oh, Elizabeth helped me close this. Oh, Justin helped me close this." So we had not had a strong history of collaboration, but once we started doing this, and other major gift officers started seeing the few who were successful and hitting the home runs, they started looking at us and taking us more seriously. Now, one of the reasons I think for the challenge was that everybody had their own separate tax IDs. They were their own separate foundations. They were raising money just for their foundation, not for the entire university. They had to answer to their own deans. And there was not, among some, there was great collaboration. Among others, it would be more like suspicion. So what I did is I assigned my gift planning officers to particular foundations and affiliated entities. And I said, you go to their meetings, you get to know what's important to them, you get to know the fundraisers, and you're always there for them when they ask questions, and you grab those opportunities. And so that's what we did. And the major gift officers love it. And to this day, they love having their own major gift officer assigned to them. That's their special person. But we also take care that they get to know all of us, so that they know if I'm out on vacation and they need something right away, they know they can ask someone else in my office. The other thing that I've always quoted in a phrase that I have used is that we are neutral zone. And it's really important here at Carolina, because of all the different foundations and entities, that they understand we are here to support you and your donors. But if the donors want to support other areas, we're going to listen to the donor and we're going to help them create an impact with 3, 5, 6 areas, however many areas they want. We're here to help them with all of it. Most of the major gift officers accepted this. There were a few at the beginning that just said, no, if you're not going to raise money just for my foundation, I don't think I'm going to use you. But they learned. But as the major gift officers worked with us more and more and grew to trust us, one of the thrilling things that happened to me, particularly during COVID, is that they were struggling working at home all the time and not being out on the road. And so they started coming and using us more and more and more for strategy. But one meaningful thing to me, several times I was called in to mediate between different foundations because someone had taken over someone's donor and had closed a gift but hadn't included the other person. And to a T, and I mean, these are great fundraisers and I love them all, but had to really play that role quite carefully. But to a T, they would always say, but we want you to get credit, Elizabeth. And it meant a lot to me that they trusted me to help them resolve and work through the issues, and everything worked out fine. But that is what happened by staying neutral and honest and open, by spending as much time with them that we could, the trust grew. Other things I did, when I first started and went around and made the rounds in 2011, 2012, what does your foundation need? What do you want? They wanted marketing. They wanted prospects. They wanted, can you identify some gift planning prospects? We did that. We would help them create marketing pieces. They also wanted technical training, and we did a huge variety. We did everything from a little charitable chatter newsletter every month. We'd do one-on-one strategies. I would do brown bags where we're going to talk about this topic, bring your lunch and meet at such and such a place on campus. Did things like that. Always available to present at their development meetings or at their board meetings. And as we got into campaign, there were more and more requests to do this from me and my team members to speak to the foundation boards. And that really helped get things going as well. And I'm sure that those of you out there have tried these different things, but I found that I had to try a variety of things. And certain periods, like the little charitable chatter newsletter I did, that was before campaign started. Once we were in silent phase, we were so busy doing other things and shifting focuses that I didn't do that continually. So it's a combination of things that worked at a particular time. I also traveled where no one else wanted to go. At Carolina, 70% of our alumni stay in the state, and the great bulk of them are up and down the East and West coasts. And when I arrived, I had this regional, she had the Southwest, and no one would travel with her. I'm like, I'm there. I was so used to it, having worked at Ohio State. I was so used to getting on the plane and going anywhere in the country, and I love it. So I traveled with her, and we did a lot of good cultivation and got a lot of things going, and she was so grateful. So I went at the beginning. It didn't matter how big of a gift. I just went to develop the relationship and create some impact and some momentum. So like I said, as time went on, we were asked, and as we moved into campaign, there were more and more invitations to present at board meetings. And I started regularly introducing the blended gift concept. And I really think nationally we had been talking about it, but we really started talking about it seriously maybe 4 or 5 years ago, about 2016, 2017. And I started using that concept at every single board meeting. Every time I spoke, I would mention that. And I remember after one of the board meetings, the lead development officer with whom I had worked we had closed many gifts together, but she came up to me and she said, Elizabeth, I finally understand what you've been trying to tell me all these years, because she had continually used me only for deferred. And when I started talking to her about strategy for someone, she would cut me off and say, oh, no. I need to get a current gift in now. And so it seemed like I couldn't get the message through to her until finally at one of these board meetings, the light bulb went off. So I would say you cannot, even though you can talk too much when you're in a donor meeting, and even though you're in a regular meeting, you can talk too much to your colleagues, I think you can't overdo important messages. And at every one of these board meetings, I talked about blended gifts. I talked about how I worked with donors. I have a saying about 3 buckets. I always had a few of the same slides. I talked about the impact of deferred, and I would show results. And so the consistent messaging kept going, but it really helped break down the old guard vision that we're planned giving, and planned giving equals deferred giving. And so more and more development officers started getting it and started bringing us in earlier in the conversations and using us for current and deferred giving. Now, I had one other concern as we were getting ready to go live. At the start of campaign, we had probably 1,300 Legacy Society members, and our Legacy Society is called the Gerard Society. And I was constantly worried about proper stewardship, because the 3 or 4 of us, I think at this time I was up to 4 fundraisers in gift planning, we could not handle that many people. And as I looked out across the foundations and affiliated entities who were going to be the recipients of these funds, they were not doing a great job of stewarding. They were so crushed by the metrics and the increase and what they had to do to bring in current dollars. They just were neglecting, quite frankly. And I'm just like, how are we going to do this? Because my goal at the end of campaign, which ends December 31st, is to get as close to 2,000 Legacy Society members as I can get. So one day, someone in senior leadership walks up to me and says, Elizabeth, if someone gave us 250,000 deferred in the last campaign and now wants it to be 500,000, can we count that? And bingo, I thought they knew that. Learning for Elizabeth, the message wasn't out there, but this was my ticket to get the major gift officers to turn their attention to stewarding our dear Gerard Society members. And so I created what we call, okay, wiggle time. Jen, can you help me get to the next slide, please? Thank you. I called it the Legacy Plus program. And in the training, and I went around to all the entities, affiliated entities, I said, okay, if you have a donor that has a deferred commitment and you haven't talked to them about their plans in 5 years, I want you to go back to them. And I want you to say, this is what we have on our record. Is this what we want? Is this clear? I want you to look at it. Is it something we can do? Do we even have instructions? And then I want you to ask them if that value is correct. And so they started doing it. And we have right now, as of June 30, 132 million that we've uncovered of Legacy Plus dollars in this campaign since fiscal year 16. We know it's low. I was just talking to the person on my team yesterday who does all of our database. The only way we can track this is if our major gift officers write out Legacy Plus in the plan name when they enter it in Blackbaud. And a lot of them forgot to do that. So this is actually low ball. But what it proves is that stewardship is so important for so many reasons. But this is what got my major gift officers off the dime. I'm just thrilled because I'm cleaning up records. I'm making sure our donors are still engaged. I'm making sure they understand the impact of what they're doing. We're making sure that we can honor their wishes. And so there's so much good out of this. I am happy to send them out on the road with their Legacy Plus lists. Jen, next. So what else? Who else were my internal allies? I created a group called LARGE, and yes, that's spelled correctly. There is no E. It stands for legal, accounting, real estate, and gift planning, because I realized there was so much overlap in these 4 departments that we really needed to be spending more time together. And so once a quarter, we'd bring our lunches, meet in the conference room, and the rule was we could talk about any gift issues, or any process issues, as long as it affected at least 2 of the 4. And more often than not, at least 3 were affected. And this group grew so tight and we got so much work done. And as they learned more and more about gift planning and the issues we were facing, accounting would be like, oh, well, we can help you with this list, or we can take over that audit portion for you, or we can do this. And it was a wonderful experience. And legal counsel at one point said to me, this is my favorite meeting. It is productive. It's fun. We're all having fun getting to know each other. And this also helped me because the real estate guys and legal counsel would urge leadership to put me in the foundation board meetings as a speaker more often. And I started getting in front of boards even more and more, the big boards. And of course, that helped with our gift planning program and messaging. Next. So advisors are always important. And all I'll say right now is that I hired a firm to do a technical newsletter 3 times a year to send out to all of our advisors in our database, wealth managers, accountants, estate planners. And I did what I call right sizing the dollar amount proportionally to my budget and the time amount. And I'll show you what I mean in just a few minutes. Jen? So how else could I prove my case? I'm bringing along the partners. The major gift officers are bringing us into the conversations more and more. I've worked through a lot of the issues, the basic issues I had when I came in, like budget, staffing, all of that. But I really wanted to get the message out even more, especially to senior leadership. So my team and I started creating impact reports. And so I'm like, okay, what am I trying to prove with this report? Who is my audience? And does it help me build my program? Next. So back to my gift planning wheel. So one of the reasons why I come back to this wheel and use it a lot, I used it for my boss, because at the time, I love my boss and she is now retired, and we developed a great relationship. But we always had a friendly argument over metrics. So one example was discovery. And so I brought this chart in and I said, look at the marketing. That's gift planning, lead discovery. Look at the stewardship. Look at all the Girard Society people we meet and the additional gifts we uncover. Advisors, yes, there's always referrals. That's discovery. Our major gift officers, because we give them points of service. We're their technical resource. And my whole thing was we should not be out on the road just trying to uncover brand new prospects for the university. We are the technical experts. We have to run all of these technical programs. We will do gift planning discovery, but not regular discovery. So I used this. I also, while I was really working hard to get Deferred results because we had high metrics and high campaign goals. I was also trying to build a robust program. And so constantly referring to this, showing people, showing leadership how much we brought in from these various programs proved to be very helpful. Next. This is one thing that I used. This was also what I used with my boss just to get her to understand why I was spending so much time with the major gift officers, because this is where our business, the bulk of our business was coming from. I don't have this year's up there for you as an example, but I just did the one for the fiscal year that closed, and 95% of my work was from major gift officers. A few from advisors, a few discovery, a few in the others, but 95% from our gift officers. And some of this was because we were so busy. This past year, we were down on the team, and there were 2 of us for a while servicing the entire university. If you think it's not fun sticking your finger in a dike, you should have been in this situation. But it goes to show, and it shows my whole team, and it shows leadership, why we put the time and the proportionate amount of time into certain activities. It also showed why I did not start spending more time with advisors, because proportionally speaking, the newsletter, the cost of the beautiful newsletter, that right-sized the amount of time and work and effort I should put into it. Next. This is another report I did. I did a mid-campaign report, and the whole point of this, I did want to outline my vision, but I also wanted to outline staffing needs and prove the case for that. A little bit it was assessing my program against my peers' programs, and really proving need for increased funding and personnel. Next. So this is one page from the report. And I used this to show the disproportionate amount of plan giving officers to major gift officers, and a few other things. I got to pick and choose. I will tell you, I know someone's going to ask where this report came from. All of these people are TIA CASPIC clients. And CASPIC, before COVID, was doing a huge survey every year, and then creating a system where we could go in and pull our own reports and do comparisons with other programs. And so this is what I did, and I would use it to call other people, and I'd use it to assess what I was doing. But the big one for this was to show, look, we are raising all this money, we're doing all of these deferred gifts, and there are only, on any given time, 3 gift planning officers at this institution. Next. So I told you, so the interesting thing, the parallel that I constantly have been dealing with is that for the campaign, only deferred giving counted, and it was 25% of our $4.25 billion goal. But as I've said, I do not believe you can have a robust gift planning program without every single one of those areas on the wheel represented. And so, but I had to do something to keep the deferred giving momentum going, because at the beginning, in the silent phase around fiscal year 2015, 2016, we were only doing 45 to 50 million a year in deferred gifts. And I knew we had to double or triple it if we were ever going to make that goal, probably triple it. And we also needed a strong principal gifts program to help us. So anything I did with had to focus resources on some of this. But one of the things I did early on, because I don't even know, next please, I don't even know that we had all of foundation board members and senior leadership understanding the true impact of deferred giving and what it could do for the future of the university. Early on, my probate administrator and I created this report. And the dark blue shows what we expected any given year based on life expectancies and what we knew about deferred gifts. The blue line is what we actually received. And I have shown this to boards, and their jaws have dropped. And they're like, really? You mean that much more could be out there than what we actually expect. And they start looking at that, and then they start hearing dollars. And now, I can look at them and say, look, we've got over $1 billion in inventory. If we truly have, 3 times that amount, think how much we have a half a campaign in inventory that we don't know about for the next campaign. And so when you approach it in this way, all of a sudden your leadership gets behind you and says, yes, we need to keep doing this. Next. This is a lesser chart, but I just put it in there just as an example. Someone might be interested in something like this. This was a training session for the big foundation board. And I was working with our tax person at UNC, and he was talking about all the different tax acts and everything that had happened. And then we kind of used it to talk about the UNC Charitable IRA Rollover Program and how it brings in cash today. We're at $5 million a year in the Charitable IRA Rollover Program. So we were using it. These slides are a little old, but this was another slide that seemed to have impact with leadership and made them think about, oh, another avenue. Oh gosh, they're doing this and it helps us now. Great. Next. This is my favorite report. This is a 2-page report. It's called The History of Gift Planning. Kudos to my team. It took the whole village to figure out how to do this. But this is page 1, and this deals with just campaign. This talks about what we've done with deferred, with revocable, irrevocable gifts, overall campaign totals, the Legacy Plus program, gift planning inventory. We're up to, as of June, I think this is all June 30, 1.6 billion in inventory that we know about. I always put the gift planning officer totals because I wanted them to see how much we touch, how much of this whole gift planning program is affected by what we do, whether it's helping draft a letter of intent, giving correct language, or having a tax discussion, or actually taking the donor from soup to nuts and letting the major gift officer tag along. I want them to know exactly what we're doing and how much we have hands on. Next. So this is page 2. And so this shows everything our program does. And it was really exciting this past year because as of June 30, we had our biggest year ever. We had approximately million, 225 million in deferred giving. Thank you, Principal Gifts. They stepped up to the plate, but 225 million. But the program did 260 million. So 35 million was in cash, closely held assets, real estate, tangible personal property. And what shows me, it's proof that our major gift officers are hearing us. They're hearing that we are a true blended gift program, that we can find other ways, if they will let us help them with their donors, to get some money in the door now. And I love this report. We do it once a month. We poll it and we give it to all senior leadership and our campaign director. Next. And this is, I believe, the last report that I'm going to show you. We do impact reports for the various foundations. This is one I did a few years ago for the School of Law. They have their own law foundation, and we were having a board meeting, and we were in the middle of campaign, obviously. And so the lead development officer wanted to show where past gifts had gone and how they'd been used. And we actually had a second page to this, and that was showing them what was in the pipeline and yet to be realized. And it was a lot of fun that day for them to see this, because as I think about it and as I go around the room, the lead development officer and I have had several powerful conversations with the board members since doing a lot of blended gifts. So when you can do these for your affiliated entities, when you can show the impact that has already been realized, and then show and look what's coming up next, that can be very powerful. Next. So where are we now in August of 2022? Gift planning has surpassed its campaign goal of 1.162 billion. And I'm not sure where we will end up. We still have 4 months. Things are going strong. What I'm especially excited about is the strong partnerships with major gift officers that we have. They love Legacy Plus, and it is a priority for the last 4 months of campaign that every development officer runs with his or her Legacy Plus list and try to close as many of these as they can. It's exciting. Last week I was with the Arts and Sciences Foundation and I was giving them a talk on gift planning made understandable. I just wanted them to have some concepts. We had so much fun telling stories and talking through it that the hour-long presentation was 2 hours and 15 minutes. We talked through lunch, we shared, and I don't think even 5 years ago, I would have had this type of success with a foundation as I did, and this much fun as I did last week. And so we've come a long way. Next. And so I really do believe that the 3 areas I discussed today, the step-by-step, just figuring out your challenges one at a time and figuring out how to build it step by step. Because keep in mind, I have now been here in charge of this program 11 and a half years. That's a long time. Build your internal collaboration and find ways to do it, find who your partners should be, and then figure out what data you need and how to get it to prove your case. Next. Because I really do believe a successful gift planning program is a blend of now and later. And one more slide. And I just want to say, when I even think of where I was 7 years ago, when we were getting really going in this campaign, as far as what we were bringing in for the university, the relationships, I mean, we were on our way. We had come a distance, but when I look at where we are now, I have to tell you, I'm amazed. And I'm excited because when campaign is over, I can't wait to do a campaign analysis of where we are and what we want to do going forward. So my hope for you is that there was some little nugget today that helped you. I wish you the very, very best with your journeys. I'm happy to help or answer questions in any way I can. And I think, Jen, this goes back to you.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Yes, we have quite a few questions that have come in just towards the end here. I haven't had time to look through them all, but if you do want to send any more in, go ahead. We still have about 10 minutes left. Let's see. We have someone that is asking about advice on stewarding your legacy donors. They're saying campus events don't work when more than half of their donors don't live locally.
Right.
So what other vehicles do your major gift officers and your plant giving officers use to keep those legacy donors engaged when they're scattered across the country?
That is something that we want to do even better. But what we've been doing through COVID is every October, we send out, well, let me back up. Once a month, I send out a little email newsletter the first Saturday of every month with a topic about one of the areas, one of the programs, something going on at the university. And then there's always a link back to our gift planning website, but it's really just to inform them. It's for the Legacy Society members. So what we do in October, because October is University Day is always in October, the celebration of the university getting started. And there's a whole lot of other activities that go on campus, obviously not right now during COVID. So what we do is we have the chancellor or someone give them a message about how important and how impactful their gifts are, and then say, look in your mailbox, and we send a little gift to every single household. I'm not going to tell you what it is this year because I can't, but we've done lapel pins, we've done different things that are all Carolina themed, and they love it. So they get a little gift from us every October. That's in lieu. What we used to do every October was a Girard Society reception on campus. And you're right. We'd always have over 100 people, but it was only the locals and only people who lived in the state. I mean, so you can't reach all of your out-of-state people. So we do that. And then in February, we send, it's email, it's e-blast, but we send a Valentine. And we always let them know how grateful. And so they have their monthly newsletters. As far as what are the other foundations doing, everyone used to have their own legacy dinners before COVID. None of that is going on now. So that is something at our team retreat this month, we said when campaign is over, we really want to focus on doing more for stewardship. We do not want to lose our 2,000 members that we have. So great question. And that's what I'm doing right now. So
Matt's asking how you handle leadership that only wants unrestricted gifts.
Oh, well, that's no problem. We actually are dying for unrestricted gifts, but we are very donor-centered here. So I don't have that issue. I use it as training when I'm talking to donors and they are talking about deferred gifts to say, you know, we don't know what the institution is going to need 20, 30 years down the road. It's sometimes good. So we encourage them to be as unrestricted as possible, but we don't have pressure in that regard. I do believe that you use the argument that I just used. We don't know what the university or what we don't know what the greatest needs are going to be in 20, 30, 40 years, whenever this gift matures. And so the more leeway you can give, great. The second thing is sometimes we tell them stories of gifts we haven't been able to use because we didn't know that we were in the estate plan and they asked for things we can't do. And that always makes them think as well. So those would be my two ideas.
Just as a baseline, we have some people asking how many staff members you have in your plan giving department.
Right now, I have a senior director and an assistant director. I have one person in charge of all probate administration and the life insurance program. And I have one person in charge of life income. We work with TIA Caspic. And he also is our database guru. So all deferred gifts he books all deferred gifts for the entire university. And then my executive assistant takes care of all of us, helps us with travel, budget, and handles all of the IRA rollover receipts. So there are only 6 of us. I'm approved for another position right now. Honestly, I'm sitting in a plug. Anybody want a job? We've had a failed search. So we are trying to find a position now for a fundraiser. And then within a year or 2, we will have another position. Our goal is to have 5 fundraisers and 3 support.
You just talked about IRA receipts. Allison's wondering if you count IRA rollover gifts in your planned giving metrics.
That was on page 2. That was, since we process them and the program runs through us, that is page 2, but they obviously get counted in whatever entity they're supporting. But I count the work to show, look, we processed $5 million in cash for the IRA rollover program.
Matt's curious about, once you've developed your program, or you're developing your program, what were the best approaches that you found for adding and changing the processes that were already in place?
Ooh. Slow as the course. Carolina was pretty set in ways, but I think what happened was this campaign and all new leadership. I mean, everything changed. Metrics, what everyone was expected to do. And that made it really easy to get updated processes in place. Also, because we are gift planning and nobody really understands us. We're those technical geeks upstairs on the 4th floor. We could do some things by ourselves, but a lot of it was also building internal allies with all the database people and getting them to help us with formatting and getting some of these reports. So it's a combination of internal, that's kind of what we've done, but we had all new leadership come in, and people had to shape up or get out. So,
you know, you bring up something there as far as creating internal allies. I mean, I'm a firm believer in trying to work with the different teams and figure out ways, because, you know, plan giving has lived in a silo for way too long.
Yeah.
There was an anonymous question in here around tips for a very small shop. They have over 1,500 legacy society members, but only one staff member.
Oh my gosh.
So, I mean, again, collaboration with, you know, others within your organization is critical. Any other tips you would provide?
Storytelling, good and bad. If there is something that happened, if you lost a deferred gift because they weren't serviced or for any other reason, storytelling helps. Also, that chart that I did showing the impact of what a future gift will do to help you say, look, we need more people doing this. But every time you lose someone because they didn't get the attention they needed, I would shoot that up the flagpole.
I think you probably shared a little bit of this, Elizabeth, but we do have someone asking if you could share a little more about the metrics that you use to measure your gift planning team.
Well, we all have to have number of proposals, number of commitments, and dollars. But then we have what we call soft goals, but this is my number one goal, and that is points of service. And everyone on my team has to do 100 points of service. And that means you either had a 10 or 15-minute strategy session with a gift officer helping them, you did a training, did a presentation, anything like that counts as a point of service, because I believe that if you do the points of service, we also have meeting goals. So I think if you do the points of service and do your best towards your meeting goals that you're getting out there and you're cultivating, I think everything else falls into place. It's all about the right activity. And our correct activity is service to our major gift officers and being proactive in helping them.
And speaking of service, we are just about out of time. I just wanted to say, I wrote down, you had the quote about, you know, who can I service today, or who am I in service today? And I just want to thank you for being here and providing the service too. We had close to 200 people on the line today. I know you're a little bit under the weather and you still showed up to be here for everyone. So we greatly appreciate that. And I know that people on the line do too. So thanks so much, Elizabeth.
Thank you. I really had fun.
I did want to let people know that if your questions didn't get answered, if you come up with something else, you can reach out to Elizabeth. Her email address is on the screen, eayers@email.unc.edu. You can also reach out to myself or Nathan, and you can visit our website at stelter.com to learn more about our services. You will also have the opportunity to see the recording and get the handouts of the presentation today. They will be on our website at stelter.com/webinars by Friday, and I will send out a personal email to everyone to let you know when they're there. So you can just wait for that on Friday. And so yes, we are out of time. Again, thank you so much, Elizabeth, for being here and sharing your expertise. And Nathan, thanks for joining us. And we hope that we see y'all at our next webinar, which is coming up. Watch your inboxes for your invitation. Have a great afternoon, everyone. Bye-bye.